Thank you very much for joining us for this first session of the IEC 2025 Plenary program. I want to express my profound gratitude for your presence as we kick off this unique plenary session, which is called One-to-One with Global Space Leaders. And on this stage, you will be offered a series of really very exclusive interviews with the leading heads of space agencies from the global community. Now it is my honor to introduce the two moderators, the two interviewers. On my left, Clay Mowry, the president of the International Astronautical Federation. And on the other side, Enrico Palermo, our IEF vice president for agency relations. But before jumping into the session, Enrico, of course, has also another function. He is here as the head of the Australian Space Agency, and as it is tradition, we would like to ask the head of the host space agency here, to give some welcome remarks. Enrico, please, may I ask you?
Thank you, Christian. Distinguished guests, fellow heads of space agencies, ministers, and members of parliaments, and your excellencies, colleagues and friends. This is my chance to say a very warm welcome to Australia and the iconic city we have here in Sydney. I'd too like to begin by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional owners of the land in which we meet today, and I pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I hope you appreciate from this morning's opening ceremony that Australia's journey to the stars is enriched by millennia of First Nations knowledge. Wisdom that is alive and fresh today. And that's something we're going to look at this afternoon in the host nation plenary. How can we integrate that wisdom into how we operate, how we go to space? And I encourage you to join us. To our international guests, let me formally welcome you to Australia as well. We are thrilled and honoured to have so many of you here from over 90 countries around our wonderful planet, and it's a true privilege to host you this week. And for those that attended IAC 2017 in Adelaide, a warm welcome back. The Australian space ecosystem has matured rapidly over the last decade. Many successful projects, a record number of Australian manufactured satellites delivering important capabilities, such as looking for those critical minerals we need for the green energy transition, through to a number of launches and returns. Australian technology is in space right now, and we're preparing to go even further. We've got a queue of Australian innovation with tickets to the moon over the coming years, including our lunar rover, Rover, and I encourage you to see our latest prototype at the Team Australia stand. We are bringing our leadership in harsh environments and remote autonomous operations to this new phase of space exploration. And since IAC 2017, when the formation of our agency was announced, I must say to much rapturous applause amongst this community, echoing the Governor-General this morning, Her Excellency, we've been focused on building off our geographic advantage, investing in the infrastructure, the capability, the people, and importantly, the partnerships, so we can be a more active collaborator. Our space sector now has heritage in space, and it's ready to scale. And we know that only happens from partnering with you, our global space community, as space is not a solo journey by any means. And we do have a long history of partnering in space, as we covered in the opening ceremony. In the shifting global environment we live in, Australia remains an experienced, trusted, and capable partner in space, a safe pair of hands, you could say. And in this week, we're leaning even harder and further into deepening partnerships. As our Minister for Industry and Innovation and Minister of Science, Senator the Honourable Tim Ayres announced earlier this morning, a treaty-level space framework agreement between Australia and the US has been agreed. That's more than just reinforcing the commitment between two great friends to continue to work together. This agreement charts new pathways for Australia's space sector to engage with major US space programs, opening the door for new opportunities for government, businesses and researchers to collaborate on joint projects with NASA and American partners. Minister Ayres also announced today a mandate to begin negotiations on a historic treaty-level cooperative agreement between the European Space Agency and Australia. This is the next chapter in a half-century-old story of partnership in deep space communications, navigation and mission support. These announcements build on ongoing work to connect the Indo-Pacific region through long-term partners, including Japan, New Zealand, India, as well as new collaborations with our neighbours in the Pacific. As potentially the biggest benefactors of space technologies facing some of the most serious challenges from climate change, it's vital the Pacific has a seat at the table. That's why it's terrific to see leaders from the Pacific joining us at IAC this week, as we look to bring more voices into regional and global space discussions, and delivering on the promise we made back in Paris in 2022 for this to be an IAC for the region. So again, let me conclude by welcoming you all to Australia. We wish you a productive and enjoyable week here. I thank you for attending, and I know you can't wait to hear from some of our global space leaders. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Enrico. As it is tradition, we also want to give you the opportunity to ask your most burning questions to the individual heads of agencies, and you can do that by using our IEF app. So please see on the screen how you do that. Scan the QR code, and please mention also to whom you would address your question. Thank you very much, but with this, I would like to now give the word for the first interview to Clay Mowry, and like to call up Administrator of NASA, Secretary Sean Duffy. Please.
Well, welcome to the IAC, Sean.
It's good to be here, Clay. Thank you.
Look, I'm going to start with Artemis, because I think this is the thing that's on everybody's mind.
I thought we were going to start with jet lag.
Jet lag. You should be over that by now.
I'm not, actually, but it's great to be here.
So Artemis, it's the cornerstone of America's strategy right now for human space exploration. Why is that so important for America to go back to the moon? Why is this critical?
Well, listen, it was 53 years since we had humans at the moon, right? So I think this is, it's important that we go back, right? So starting next year, we're going back with Artemis 2. We're going out around the moon and back. Then Artemis 3, we're going to put astronauts on the south pole of the moon. And we all know there's ice on the south pole. Ice means water. Water means life. One of my first directives was to put out a directive for surface fission power. So we'll have the ability to have long-term sustained life at the south pole of the moon. So incredibly exciting. And again, what does this mean for us? You know, I think 10 years ago, if you look at the space economy, it's a, $600 billion economy in the US. No one 10 years ago could have envisioned that you'd have that kind of economy stand up today, but it has. And so I think if we look to the moon and the economy that's going to stand up there, I can't project what it's going to look like, but do I think it's going to exist? Do I think innovation and creativity and economies will stand up 10 years from now from what we're doing right now in this mission to the moon? Absolutely, and it's exciting.
That's fantastic. Beyond the moon, you have clear ambitions about going to Mars and for deep space exploration. How do you plan for those things off in the future, knowing you've got near-term objectives? How does it work?
I think it's one continual vision. Whether we're looking at Apollo to the space station, to lower Earth orbit, to this mission to the moon, and then to Mars beyond. I think it's one idea that we continue to explore. And so I would say as an American, it's always been in our hearts, from pilgrims to pioneers. We've continually explored, and maybe that's a little bit short-sighted because you look at all of our global friends and partners here, it's maybe not an American mission, it's in the human heart. I think humans want to explore. And so again, it's about the technology, it's about the innovation, that's going to allow us to continue to stretch beyond and go to new places. So again, this is just, I think it's one continuation of human exploration. Again, pilgrims, pioneers, Moon, Mars, and beyond.
Well, you mentioned commercial LEO destinations, so I'm interested. I know you came out with something just recently around commercial LEO destinations in terms of the timing for moving forward. You want to talk a little bit about that? We've had the space station up there for 25 years now. What does it mean?
So we put out a request for information, and we've gotten feedback. Some people have loved our directive, some people not so much. But what we're going to do is take that information and then come back to industry. But again, it's going to be a partnership that we're going to have with the private sector, and we think that that economy can stand up, and we can partner with them. It just doesn't have to be, government funding that's going to drive it. We do believe that our private sector partners are going to want to get involved and be players with us.
That's good. So, the U.S. has been a leader in space, a leader in exploration and partnerships with all of our international partners that are here at the IC. How do you see American leadership in space as you look forward for the next few years or for the next decade? Yeah,
so we've led with our dollars, right? We've invested a lot of money in space. We've invested in technology. But I think as I look forward, I think it's critically important that we lead with a vision. Right? I think if we look at what's going to happen in space, what do we want it to look like? What should it be? And I think if you look at the model that we have, that we should be transparent with each other. Again, it's the human heart that's exploring. We should be transparent, and we should come in peace. And those who have bought into that model and that idea, we're willing to partner with. Not everyone shares that vision. Some people have a different viewpoint, but we think that, again, the best path forward is for us as one human race to do this together with that clear ideology. And again, we've done this in the past. We've always come in peace. We haven't been in the business of taking people's land. We want to again promote those values in space that I think will. I think again it'll make it just far more encompassing and engaging for all of our global partners.
Okay. You had mentioned the role of, I don't know if there was applause there, somebody started applauding it. We're all for international partnership in space. I think it's a good thing. You mentioned about the role of commercial industry there briefly. I want to pull on that thread a little bit, which is commercial industry, and by the way, NASA kind of led this with commercial cargo and then commercial crew. Yeah. How do you see the role for commercial industry going forward? It's a little bit of a different business model now as you look at buying space as a service going forward. How do you think about that?
So, I mean, the way we look at it is NASA invests in really challenging problems, and we do that with our partners. And once those really difficult challenges become less challenging, we see the private sector step up, step in, and start to evolve around it. And then we're able to go on to the next challenging set of problems. And what you've seen now with the commercial sector is they make money, and then they innovate and create and continue to drive the space economy and innovation around it. So it's not just our US tax dollar at play, but we're leveraging the private sector as well to continue to help us get further and learn more as we go through this process. So again, they're critical to our success. And again, from SpaceX to Blue and others, they've just been remarkable. I mean, and think about this. I mean, that you can launch into space for $300 to $1 million. I mean, that was unforeseeable 10 years ago. And so many more people, so many more businesses have access to space because this industry has stood up and used economies of scale to drive down the price, which is fantastic.
It was exciting for me. I worked for Blue Origin for about 5 years, and to be involved in those first early missions on New Shepard was so much fun.
Remarkable.
Yeah. Now, I know this is a tough one, but when you look 10 years into the future, and nobody's going to hold you, nobody's going to come back 10 years now. But what is success?
Fact checkers out there?
You can come back, yeah. We'll host it here again. What does success look like 10 years from now? If you look 10 years down the road, what do you think that looks like for the U.S.?
So, listen, I think we are going to have sustained human life on the moon. So I'm also the Secretary of Transportation in the U.S., so we're going to build infrastructure on the moon. Maybe just not an outpost, but a village of people a lot of people on the moon. I think that would be success. And then I think we're going to have made leaps and bounds on our mission to get to Mars. Are we going to be there yet? I don't want to say that. It's possible. But we are going to be at the cusp of being able to go to Mars, put human boots on Mars, which I think is incredibly cool. So I do think you're going to have a well-functioning, sustained base on the moon. And again, that's critical. What we learn there is going to help us get to Mars, right? What impact does space have on the human body? How do we have prolonged, time frames in space is what we're going to learn on the moon, and it's going to help us, get to Mars, which I think is going to be wildly exciting.
Okay. Before we get to some audience questions, I hopefully this is an easy one for you, right? This is your first ISC. You're seeing the global space community. We're thinking about bringing the ISC to the United States in '29, which would be the 60th anniversary of the Apollo landing. What do you think of that? Is it something you would support?
What do you guys think? Should we come back to the States?
Yeah, all right. I love it. I love how he did that. He just turned it around on the audience. Perfect.
Based on, I think that would be fantastic. And again, we will have hopefully completed Artemis 3. We will have landed back on the moon, which will be exciting. And I think it'd be fantastic, whether we're going to somewhere in Texas or Florida or some other location, to bring you all back to the States and celebrate our great history in space with all of you would be wonderful. So okay. Do I have to start lobbying for this?
No, I mean, just wanted to get a nice, kind yes, and I'll take care of the rest, okay?
Deal. I love it.
All right, so, we have the theme here this week around sustainability. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about sustainability. We think about sustainability in our community, both sustainability in space with satellites and making sure that everyone can use this capability in space, and also for helping life on Earth. So do you reflect on that one?
Listen, we only have so much money, right? And so my view with NASA is, again, we have certain missions that come from Congress, and I think we provide great resources, whether it's with storms or wildfires or flooding. There's a huge role that we play providing assistance on Earth. What we learn in our atmosphere on the Earth is helpful as we go into to other planets. But there's only one agency that explores. Human exploration belongs to one agency. There's a lot of agencies that can get involved in climate change and that whole conversation, but only one is human exploration, and that's NASA. So what I've said is, listen, we're going to do our congressionally mandated function on Earth and with regard to climate and sustainability, but if we burn up our resources doing that, which other agencies can do, we don't have the resources to continue our space exploration, and that is our mission. And so my focus has been deal with the congressional mandates, number one, but number two, focus us on human space exploration. And that's been my priority at NASA. And again, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't look at sustainability, we shouldn't look at what's happening on Earth, but again, there's a lot of agencies, a lot of groups that do this work. We're the only ones who are human space explorers. If we want to talk about sustainability in a different way, sustainability of life in space, right? That is critically important for us as well. And again, we have to spend time, right? See what impacts we have on the body, and see how we overcome some of the challenges as we evolve with science, medicine, and technology to make sure we can have long-term sustainability for humans in space.
I know it's one of the Australian Space Agency's keys, and I love how they talk about it, about sustaining us in space and how humans can live in space for the longer term.
Sustainability can go a lot of different directions.
Yeah, it's got a lot of permutations. There's several questions in here from the audience about surface fission power. And I don't want to get into the technical side, but can you talk a little bit about what does it enable? What does it bring to if we can get fission power on the surface of the moon?
So, well, just to be clear, some were saying that we want nukes on the moon. Not true. We do come in peace. But again, you need a reliable, long-term sustainable power source. And we believe that is the fission technologies, right? So we have opportunities for solar power on the moon. But we don't think that is reliable enough to have continual life-sustaining power. And so we've given the directive, we're well on the process of developing that technology for the moon surface. But also, I think if we look at propulsion, this is going to be important as well as we move forward to beyond the moon, to Mars and elsewhere.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your feedback.
Great to be with you. Thank you guys all for having me. I appreciate it. Enjoy the conference.
Great job.
Thank you very much, Administrator, for being with us. It's now my great pleasure to call on stage the Director General of the European Space Agency, Josef Aschbacher. Please join Enrico. Welcome. Enrico, over to you.
Joseph, a warm welcome back to Australia. You're a fond friend and have visited Australia and the region many times. 2025 has been a very momentous year in ESA. One of the key thrusts was launching ESA Strategy 2040, which I encourage the audience to read and study. Tell us a little about the journey. Why did you publish a new strategy this year?
So thank you. First of all, very happy to be here. Congratulations to organizing this fantastic ISC, to both of you actually here on stage, but especially for you hosting us here. It's such a pleasure. So why did we publish the strategy 2040? First of all, we didn't have one. So we really were sitting back and said, look, where do we want to go long term, not only for 4 years, because in the past we have published strategies that were attached to the mandate of one DG, of one Director General. I did one when I started in 21, so I published a strategy 25 called Agenda 25. But this time I thought instead, when I was renewed, I thought instead of doing an Agenda 29, why not looking further into the future? And not only my document as ESA Director General, but really something that is developed together with the member states. So this is a much wider one, much stronger one, and a longer view strategy that we have published. So it's really important to have a clear guidance. Where do we want to go? What is our main priority? And obviously then we implement the strategy via ministerial conferences step by step. So it's really a nice document. I can warmly recommend to read it. It's really giving a very good impression of where Europe puts its priorities. And one of them, the number one priority, is actually the theme of this conference here, which is on protecting our planet and climate.
Yeah, so to that point and that priority of protecting planet and climate, and I think the theme of this year's Congress couldn't be more timely from a sustainability of access to space. How are you leveraging ESA technology and partnerships to, whether it's to combat climate change or ensure that space activities are sustainable?
Yeah, sustainability, climate change are extremely important policy priorities for Europe at political level, but also in space. That means developing space activities. And I think it's fair to say that we have really taken this guidance, which does come from our member states and their political leaders, to heart. And we have developed a space program that is quite outstanding in terms of monitoring our planet. But we do all and much of it together with our partners. One example is the Copernicus program. I think it's well known now globally. But we also have a science program, a meteorological program that goes hand in hand with the Copernicus program. And there we deliver about 350 terabytes of data every single day to users worldwide free of charge. That means we are offering to anyone to get these data of the oceans, the land surface, the atmosphere, the polar regions, so really all the elements of our Earth system for free, downloading them from our websites. And this is really also a contribution of Europe in general, and obviously also the European Space Agency, to make sure that we are, first of all, monitoring well our planet, but also then providing this data to anyone to use. And it's not only for climate change. Climate is probably one of the parameters that is, would say, well referred and quite often quoted. But these data are used for business, for agriculture, for forestry, for disaster management, for air quality, for ship routing, for air traffic management, and many other applications. And I can tell you, as probably many of you in the room here also are witnessing, there are many applications based on this data. So I'm very glad and very happy that as ESA, we are really working with the countries, for the planet, for its betterment, if I may say, but also with all the partner agencies across the world to really get access to them. And Australia is one of our partners. We have an agreement with you to get a mirror of all the Copernicus data, which you then disseminate within the country and within the region.
Yeah, that generosity of ESA for that data is well appreciated by us, and I'm sure many nations around the planet. Our National Science Agency, CSIRO, and our Geophysics Agency, Geoscience Australia, benefit from that data, and we use it extensively in management of our wide and diverse land here in Australia. Changing themes a little bit in Strategy 2040, and I think this reflects some recent speeches as well that you delivered, it does call on strengthening European autonomy and resilience in space, while boosting the growth and competitiveness. So how are you developing those homegrown capabilities? What are they? And talk through a bit of the strategy about resilient access to space.
Yeah, autonomy and more independence in terms of strategic developments is certainly an important aspect, but that doesn't exclude international cooperation, and this is really going hand in hand. One of the actions I did just recently is to reinforce global partnerships. We have obviously a very long-standing agreement and partnership with NASA for decades on many domains, but also with JAXA for many decades. I see my friend from JAXA here, who will probably speak in a minute. And just in November last year, we have reaffirmed our long-standing cooperation to make room for new large, big corporations together with JAXA, and we are at the moment working on 4 domains that we have identified. But also with India, I've signed an agreement recently to focus on an intensification of cooperation, in particular here on exploration. With Canada, obviously being a cooperating state of ESA, has all the access to our programs and is participating. I had a very nice interaction and mission also to Canada, to Lisa and her team of the Canadian Space Agency, again to reinforce this cooperation, and many other countries, the UAE and several other countries that we are working with. So this is really something that goes from major agencies to many small ones. Altogether, we have about 320 international agreements that we have signed and that we're implementing right now. But coming back to your point on autonomy, yes, of course, we need to build up strength. We need to build up technology. We need to build up assets that we have in order to be a good partner on the cooperation and partnership table, in order to offer something and obviously get something in return for any good partnership. And this is certainly a priority we do. Autonomy starts with launchers. We have just had access to space again. We call the launcher crisis when we did not have a launcher between Ariane 5 and Ariane 6 for a period of 1 year. And I was deliberately calling it a crisis to make people aware how important launchers are as a very fundamental infrastructure to get access to space and therefore deliver satellites and receive all the data that we get from there. We have also at the same time decided not only to stabilize the exploitation of Ariane 6 and Vega C and ramp up the launch cadence, but also to have a completely new way of buying launches in the future through what we call the European Launcher Challenge, where we have newcomers that we select that may build up their rockets and sell services to us as an anchor customer. Some of the first ones are coming probably in the very near future. They have all their work in preparation, and we are very much looking forward to see them launching very soon. And this is really a complete paradigm shift of how in the future we will develop the next heavy launcher, which will then succeed, obviously, Ariane 6 as the heavy lift launcher which we have today. Of course, we need to stabilize the exploitation, make sure that our workhorse is really delivering all this capacity medium to long term. But yes, autonomy is certainly something that starts with launchers and then goes to programs like Copernicus, like Galileo, and others where we are building up strength and therefore capacity and infrastructure.
Wonderful. Congratulations on driving that strategy and that investment. I started by acknowledging it's a momentous year for ESA. So congratulations for all of us on the 50th anniversary of the European Space Agency in 2025. And we're certainly proud here in Australia that the roots of ESA through the European launcher development organisation started here, and it's wonderful to see how ESA's obviously blossomed over those 50 years. So as you celebrate the anniversary, another key goal in ESA Strategy 2040 is to inspire Europe. So how are you inspiring the public, the youth, and others through the Inspire Europe program?
No, inspiration, of course, space and inspiration go hand in hand. But let me just say, Enrico, one word on the announcement you just quoted before when you made your speech, your introductory speech to this panel here, that your minister announced and gave you a mandate to negotiate a cooperation agreement with ESA. And I'm very happy to see that. Thank you for the trust in choosing ESA as one of your partners, and very much looking forward to do that. You mentioned rightly that actually we had a very intense cooperation 50, 60 years ago when you were a member of ELDO, which was the predecessor organization of ESA, and we launched about 10 rockets from Australian soil, the Europa rocket as it was called at the time. And I think this already shows how long-standing our cooperation is, and how intense and how deep it is. But coming back to inspiration, yes, inspiration or Inspire Europe is one of the 5 pillars of the new strategy. Of course, space is inspiring by nature, but there's many actions and many elements that are making this possible. Obviously, the astronauts are always the very inspirational ambassadors of space, and they are doing a fantastic job with all the work they're doing on the space station, and really coming back with the results, but also the impression they have from their point of view up in space and seeing planet Earth. And every time they come back to planet Earth, I ask them, what has most impressed you when you have been on the space station, apart from doing all the research and technical development? They all say, looking down at our planet, seeing it from a distance, from a very different viewpoint, is so fascinating, is so inspiring. You don't see wars, you don't see borders, you don't see different races and religions. People are just down there, and this is a planet that is so beautiful, but also so fragile, and we have to protect it. And I think this notion of seeing it from there is very strong, and is something very important. In fact, one of the astronauts, when he came back, said to me, look, I wish that every single citizen on this planet, 8+ billion people, could go to space once and see it from there, and the world would be a very different one if this would be made possible. But inspiration also, of course, means having European projects working together that inspires, being proud of achievements that we are making among the countries. As you know, we are uniting 23 countries through the European Space Agency. And this is also inspirational, that we have projects that are of a European dimension, where we build rockets together, where we build satellites together, data systems together, digital twins together, and really work at the forefront of space technology. And I think this is something where I really want to attract young people, young talents to the programs and projects we are initiating. And I think this is really inspiring and inspiration at its best. And yes, this is one of our priorities as well.
Wonderful. We'll take one quick question from the audience before we have to wrap up, and they're ranked here for me. So with respect to launches, one of the questions is how is ESA thinking about reusability of launches in design going forward?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a key question. Of the new candidates that we have now selected, there are 5 of them that we have in the inner circle for the next phase. All of them will use reusability as a key criteria, because it is about cost, and cost obviously is reduced by using reusability, of course, at a certain, I would say, weight class, because this only becomes really efficient above a certain weight class. But certainly reusability is one of the prime elements I see coming in the new launcher generations.
Great. Well, Joseph, thank you very much. Congratulations on the 50th anniversary, and Australia is thrilled we're entering negotiations on the cooperative agreement.
Thank you so much.
A big thanks to the Director General of the European Space Agency, and it's now my pleasure to call on stage next the Chairman of the Indian Space Research Organization, Dr. Narayanan. Welcome. Please join Clay. Clay, over to you.
Thank you, Christian. Chairman Narayanan, I know ISRO, I've come to visit your headquarters. It's been fantastic experience. And by the way, congratulations on the recent GLEX that we held in New Delhi this past year. It was fantastic. You did a wonderful job. Yeah, thank you. You know, what struck me the most when I went to visit ISRO was the strong heritage in space applications that ISRO has. Can you talk a little bit about space applications, what you're doing, and how it reflects back on the theme here, which is sustainable space, resilient Earth?
Yeah, from the beginning of Indian space program, our major focus was on utilizing the advanced technology of space for the benefit of common man, of our country, of course the global community to some level. And we were always focusing on that. Now when you talk about the sustainable development goals of UN, there are 17 sustainable goals. And out of that, we are contributing 14 sustainable goals. Let me explain a couple of things.
Please.
For example, our space activity was started in the year 1962. And today we have come a long way and multiple applications. Number one, ensuring food security was one of our key targets. And through our Earth observation satellites, we are doing a lot of activities in that area. Then water security is another important thing. Then coming to, if you talk about education as an important thing, you know, we have exclusively launched one satellite some time back called EduSat. And we are using teleeducation as one of the important applications. In fact, it was very impressive way it was utilized. Then climate change is another aspect. Climate change, when you talk, for example, air pollution and routine changes. So we are having a couple of satellites for studying the climate changes and contributing. Then coming to disaster warning and mitigation. And that is another important area probably we are contributing. In fact, there was a time when disaster happens, a lot of people used to lose. But today that is not the case. And we really monitor, for example, cyclone, flood events, forest fire. We, in an advanced stage, we monitor. And of course, a lot more has to be done, but a lot of things are done in these areas. Then coming to health sector. Health is another important sustainable development goal. This area also we are contributing, and clean energy is another area. Thereby, if I tell really in the area of the serving in these areas, we are doing great job. Another thing is weather forecasting. Weather forecasting is one of the very important aspects. And of course, weather forecasting for accurately predicting the weather aspects, we need to monitor a lot of data. And through the satellite only it can be done. Otherwise, it is not possible. And the entire data is utilized through the model. And today, the weather forecasting is really very accurately it is done. Almost 35 years back, things were not that in order. So thereby, through the space program, we are serving the country in sustainable development goals.
Fantastic. I asked Secretary Duffy, the acting administrator, about the role of private sector in space. I'll ask you the same question. How does, and I know there's a lot happening in India right now, right, with the private sector in launch and other activities. How do you view the private sector? How does ISRO work with the private sector? There's in space. Can you explain a bit what you see there?
There are two aspects involving private sectors. In fact, earlier, when till today we have developed 6 generations of launches, something around 133 satellites of various types we have built. There was a time the entire activity was done like a proto-hardware in the organization, in the space government sector. But then, when the number of launches, number of satellites increased, and we had to utilize the private sector in a big way. For example, whenever we launch a PSLV, and almost I will say 80% budget is going to the industries. In terms of hardware realization, in terms of assembly, everything goes. But today, later part, the space sector reform is announced by Government of India. The credit should go to our Honorable Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi ji. And today the demand of the space in terms of every application is huge application. And only government sector alone cannot do. So the space sector reform is announced, and a separate entity called InSpace. I think the chairman is also here. Mr. Bhavan Goenka is here. And a separate entity is formed for enabling the private sector to work. In fact, I want to tell, a few years back, the number of startup companies, what was contributing for our program was hardly 3 to 4. And today, it has gone to 330 plus numbers. And we strongly believe the startup companies, academia, and the private sector has to come in a big way. And really, the space ecosystem in the country has to grow in a big way, considering the future demands in terms of application satellites, in terms of communication satellites. And we are going in a big way. In fact, our private sectors today, the activities happen in multiple areas. For example, there are startup companies who are building the launch vehicles, and all the systems are getting built. There are startup companies capable of realizing the satellites as a total. And another area is the data, utilizing the satellite data. For example, Earth observation data, huge data is available. Now, converting as useful product, and a lot of activities are done. In fact, I am very happy to inform this August audience, the last 4 years, the contribution of startup companies have grown, and it is going to grow in a very, very big way. In fact, when we started our program, our goal was nothing connected with commercial aspect. Only how to utilize the advanced technology, space technology, for the benefit of the common people. But today, an organization like this, a 63 years old organization, a space program for sustaining commercial aspect also is very, very important. So we are also focusing on that. In fact, today our share is hardly only 2%, and this we want to take it to much higher levels, 8 to 10% level, maybe another 10 years. And so we are working towards that also.
Fantastic. ISRO has a very active lunar program, and in fact, you won a big award at the last IEC for the Chandrayaan mission. I mean, it was really kind of a master class for me to watch you guys explain how you did this very precise lunar mission. Can you talk a little bit about the future for lunar exploration for ISRO? Where are you heading? What's next? What's your next accomplishment or feat?
In fact, when you talk about the lunar exploration, first of all, let me thank other spacefaring nations who have really supported us in a big way. For example, the Chandrayaan-1 was the first interplanetary mission. I think there were countries, for example, USA has supplied a major payload. And jointly with USA, that payload with our mission, we have found first time water molecules on the moon. And then I think the credit should go not only ISRO, it is USA, along with USA we have done. And there were countries really who supported. Then coming to, you take the Chandrayaan-2 mission. Of course, it was supposed to be a soft landing mission, but then we had multiple objectives. And we have placed a orbiter. And today, if you see the orbiter, originally it was designed for 1 year only. But now it is because of the outstanding mission management work what was done, and precisely placing the orbit with less propellant, utilizing less propellant from the satellite. It is working for almost 6 years. And we are having one of the best cameras with high resolution camera, highest resolution camera, 32 centimeter resolution camera is in the orbit. And that is giving so much data. And Chandrayaan-3, you all know, August 23rd, 2023 was a very, very historical day for us. And we could successfully soft land near South Pole of Moon. And one is landing, soft landing. Another thing is it has discovered a lot of minerals, 8 minerals, and we could understand seismic activity, we could understand the thermal gradient, we could understand the electron clouds. But one good thing is, everything we have distributed to the scientific community for the people to utilize the data. Then coming to the future, lot of programs are there. Number one, Chandrayaan-4. Chandrayaan-4 is a mission. What we are planning, it is a sample return mission. We started with orbiter mission, went with the soft landing. Now we are talking about the sample return mission. And it is going to be a huge mission. Basically, it is a 9,600 kg total satellite mass. And our vehicle capability, we cannot lift in a single vehicle. So we are going to lift off using 2 vehicles. And then we have to, once we lift off with the 2 vehicles, it has to be docked in the space. Then we have to do undocking and landing. And a lot of technology development is required. And this year, I am happy to inform this August audience that one of the important experiments, the space docking experiment, we have successfully done. And in fact, January 16th, 2025, we successfully accomplished that experiment and docking 2 satellites and transferring the power from one satellite to another. And again, de-docking, multiple time docking, we have done. In fact, I want to tell the entire mission objective was accomplished with just 50% of the propellant what was budgeted. Right. And so that experiment we have succeeded. Now, using all this experience, and another thing is this year also we demonstrated for the first time your robotic arm deployment in space. And all these things will be utilized for this Chandrayaan-4 mission. And another mission is a LUPEX mission. I think our colleagues are there from JAXA. So I have to thank them. And we both are working together. And it is a heavy lander mission, their launch vehicle. And together we are working. In fact, our Honorable Prime Minister of India, 3 weeks back when he was in Japan, it was officially announced. And we have got the project approval. And we are going to have a joint mission. And compared to Chandrayaan-3, it is going to be a heavy lander. Chandrayaan-3 was a 1,600 kg lander. This will be something around 6,800 kg lander. And Chandrayaan-3, we had a 25 kg rover, which was doing the experiments. Here it will be something around 350 kg rover we are building. And the life of this Chandrayaan-5, rather LUPEX, is also going to be 100 days. And that's what is the target, and which is going to bring a lot of scientific outcome for the global scientific community. And then we are also continuing the program. In fact, one of the area where we have initiated the study is, we are working on the human spaceflight program. But here, we are also initiated some studies. We are yet to get the government approvals on our Honorable Prime Minister has already given the direction. Landing on the moon by 2040. This is also one of the target on which we have initiated a couple of studies, and a lot of payload developments, all those activities are initiated. Thereby, the exploration of moon is going to be a continuous activity for Indian space program.
Okay, just one quick one from the audience. We're almost out of time. Gaganyaan, any update on Gaganyaan? Where do you stand with the Gaganyaan program?
Gaganyaan program, you all know, it is a technology-intensive program.
Yeah.
And number one, we have to complete the human rating of the launch vehicle. And all the propulsive system, we have completed the test. And orbital module, right now, we are in the final phase of realization. And environmental control and safety system is yet another important thing. A lot of control components, modules, and software work is involved. We are in the advanced stage. And crew escape system for enabling the escape of crew in case of demand. That development is in the advanced stage. A couple of experiments we have done. A lot more, some more experiment has to be done. Another important thing is parachutes for splashdown. And recently also we completed one experiment. In fact, 9 parachutes are required for accomplishing the mission, and we have integrated way, we have done the first test, and now some more tests are planned. Now, to complete the program, 3 uncrewed missions are planned. And first uncrewed mission is targeted most likely this year end. And there we are going to send a off-humanoid called Biomitra. That development is completed, and which can operate a lot of systems and understand and respond, so that is over. And this year we are targeting the first uncrewed mission, mainly for vehicle characterization, aerodynamic characterization of the vehicle, and taking end-to-end a nominal mission. Followed by 2 more uncrewed mission, we are working on that, and we are targeting every once in 6 months, 1 uncrewed mission. And after reviewing all the results of these 3 missions, we are targeting 2027 beginning the crewed mission. And the way the entire country, because it is not only ISRO activity, it is the national activity. Various organizations are involved. In fact, after flashdown, we have to recover the team. And the entire module for that, we need ship, we need helicopters, a lot of things are required. So many departments are working. It's a national endeavor. And our target is get the success 100 out of 100 in the first attempt. So the entire country is working towards that.
That's a great target. Well, thank you so much. I think we're out of time. I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for joining us. Well done.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Well done. Well done.
Thank you very much, Dr. Narayanan.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to call on stage the President of the Canadian Space Agency, Lisa Campbell. Please join Eric, Enrico.
Welcome. Please, yeah. Pulls very slow. There you go. Lisa, a warm welcome. I understand it's your first time in Australia. We're absolutely thrilled to host you. How's the trip so far?
It is wonderful to be here. What a beautiful country. And I saw some huge birds at the fish market, the pelicans.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Bigger than what we have back home.
Well, we're really pleased to have you here with a terrific delegation from Canada. Canada's a trusted global leader if you look what you've done on the space station and the shuttle and before. But as you look to the future as the President, and congratulations on the extension of your term, how can Canada further strengthen and diversify its partnerships and remain that trusted global leader?
It's a wonderful opportunity for us. We're building on our historic partnerships. Soon you'll see we're going to have an astronaut fly around the moon as part of the Artemis II mission. But we are also taking advantage of the fact that space is growing to diversify our partnerships. So we've always understood that space obliges cooperation, whether it's Earth observation, space exploration, or developing cutting-edge technology. We know that we go further together. So we want to be that trusted partner everyone wants to work with. And as my colleague, Dr. Joseph Ashbacher, mentioned with Europe, when we welcomed you, Joseph, to Canada with a strong delegation this summer, we underscored our shared goals. You met many people in our nation's capital. And it's a partnership that we've had since 1979. Our predecessors knew it was a good idea to build those bridges. And it's a mechanism that's been extraordinarily rewarding. So we reinforced that with your visit. And we look forward to continuing those strategic high-level planning and prioritization discussions at the ministerial this November. And then with Japan as well, when I had the chance to visit Dr. Yamakawa and the amazing work that's happening at JAXA this summer, from sustainable exploration to Earth observation. And this fall, Canadarm2 will capture Japan's first HTV-X cargo spacecraft on the ISS, a tangible sign of our storied cooperation. So this is the kind of engagement, Enrico, with key nations, yourself as well, here in the South Pacific. It dovetails with Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy to promote peace and security, along with expanding trade and opportunity by enhancing and diversifying our economic relationships. We're also open to talent. Canada welcomes the best and brightest minds to help drive space science and technology R&D. And we view this as an opportunity to go further into the universe together.
Great. The Canadian government recently has announced quite record investments in defence, and we're pleased some Australian partnerships are part of that. Like the Australian Space Agency, the Canadian Space Agency is a civil space agency. But what do these investments mean for you?
We share a lot with you, a huge landmass and a relatively smaller population, and yet sovereign requirements. So we are going to have a new defense industrial strategy in Canada. Our government has committed to spending $9 billion by this spring, and then probably more to come following that. With these investments and the priorities that the government has shared, you need an industrial base that grows to support those investments. And thankfully, space is an incredibly resilient sector, as all of you know. So the answer lies in leveraging our excellence, highly skilled workforce, world-leading technologies, and a strong track record of innovation. So we view the Canadian Space Agency, a civil agency. We can play a key role in these efforts. Most space technologies, up to a certain level of technology readiness, are dual use by their very nature. They can do both things, and it's essential. So we think it's a strategic advantage, and it supports our efforts for national sovereignty and security. Emerging opportunities include in-space servicing, refueling, enable sustainable access to space orbit, advanced robotics, a Canadian strength with proven global demand, AI applications, critical deep space systems. All of these things are going to have applications in defense, but also everything that we want to do on the civil side. And then obviously cybersecurity. We're seeing strong academic leadership, and we have a quantum capability demonstration ongoing now at the Canadian Space Agency. So in many of these areas, civil and defense needs naturally converge. And today, I'm pleased to announce that the Canadian Space Agency is investing over $13 million to advance new space technology development projects, most of which have dual-purpose applications. The investment's going to help ensure that Canada remains equipped to address emerging security challenges while reinforcing our sovereignty. So 17 Canadian companies, some of whom are here at the IAC, will receive funding, helping them expand into new markets and also boost the Canadian economy.
That's wonderful. Congratulations on that announcement. We have going back to the theme, and congratulations again, the theme of sustainable space, resilient Earth. And as you think about investments in Earth observation in space, and we've often talked about how we're afflicted by similar things. You call them wildfires, we call them bushfires. How does the world stand to gain from further investments in Earth observation?
We have all sorts of environments in Canada, in the north and the east coast, in the winter and the summer, and each of those seasons is now bringing new things that we need to deal with as a country. So for Canada, Earth observation strengthens our resilience, our ability, as you mentioned, to respond to wildfires, which now cost Canada $1 billion a year just to manage. Rapid changes in the Arctic, which makes up 40% of our land mass, biodiversity loss, or extreme climate events. So space-based EO, there was a strategy that our government put out a few years ago. It underpins everything that we do. It helps us monitor these changes, anticipate their impacts, but also empower communities to look after the land and then also save money, save infrastructure using space data. And Canadian companies have a lot to offer on that front. So also today, I'm pleased to announce that we're providing funding to 20 Canadian companies through our Smart Earth initiative. The Canadian Space Agency will invest $5 million to support innovative solutions using satellite data to tackle biodiversity challenges. Some of these projects are AI-driven. They'll address issues including declining species population, habitat degradation, deteriorating water quality, and also forest disturbance. And as we celebrate 30 years of RadarSat this year, our synthetic aperture satellites, we're continuing to look ahead. We're actually developing the next generation of Earth observation capabilities, exploring the future potential of high-quality star data. And this is something that makes you think about how far we've come. When we first started providing satellite data to government agencies and companies, we actually offered them money and said, will you please try and experiment with our space data? And some said no. Now, we are met with huge demand from across government and public sector companies, but at first, we needed to teach people how to use it, what applications it had. It's really interesting to see where we've come. We also have opportunities to strengthen our resilience, particularly up north, like the proposed Arctic observing mission. Our presence in the north depends on weather prediction, good communications, and space can help with that. And then you touched on a really urgent example, wildfires. On average in Canada, about 8,000 wildfires burn more than 2 million hectares of forest every year. And the costs I mentioned earlier, environmental, financial, human, are staggering. So our WildfireSat mission, which we've just announced recently, has a real opportunity to turn that tide. We expect it'll save the Canadian economy up to $5 billion over the life of the mission, over 5 years, and that's a direct use of space data to save lives and save communities. At the G7, hosted in Canada this past June, new investments were announced to extend WildfireSat coverage to the rest of the world. not only in Canada, and we're very happy about that, because it's what we want to do is share this precious space data with the rest of the world.
What a terrific run of announcements and strategy you're pushing out this year, Lisa. Congratulations. It's clear the global trade environment is shifting. How are you adapting to that? How's Canada adapting, and how do you see your space sector play a role in that shift?
The government has set clear priorities, strengthening our nation, ensuring safety through strategic defense investments, deepening and diversifying global partnerships, and building a resilient, future-ready economy. You all know this. Space is a strategic enabler on all these fronts, and it plays a critical role advancing our national goals. Our space sector is very strong and has a lot to offer in the current context, proposing solutions that are flexible, adaptable, and it's both the commercial space players, but also the public space agency. But the aspirational opportunity ahead of us is even greater. We're at a critical moment, I really believe this, Enrico, where space can play a key role in nation building. Canada's leadership in key areas, space robotics, synthetic aperture radar, Earth observation technologies. It shows how these unique strengths where you deliberately invest will end up being sought after around the world. So it can also help you with what you're trying to do at home, but you can export those capabilities and help other countries. If you look at missions like our high-altitude aerosols, water vapor and clouds mission, we plan to award 2 parallel contracts to the mission's 3 instruments to encourage innovation and allow us to explore multiple concepts before moving forward, because speed matters. So we're looking at ways to procure faster, also taking advantage of commercial off-the-shelf applications, because the days when which we could spend a lot of time iterating with complex specifications are done. We need to be much faster, move out with initial operating capability, and then iterate it and perfect as we go along. And space isn't a luxury for Canada, it's a necessity. So our geographic position on the planet, like you, I think, makes our country a desirable place to do space business. We've got oceans for spaceports, and then you also have access to interesting orbits from Canada. Our space sector creates jobs. That's increasingly important for governments. It contributed $3.2 billion to Canada's GDP in 2022, and the space sector generated $5 billion in revenues and supported 25,000 jobs.
Fantastic. I'm going to take a quick couple of questions from the audience, Lisa. And the top polling one at the moment is, I mentioned earlier, but what is your vision for the future of Canadarm technology in space exploration, thinking about lunar and Mars exploration?
Canadarm technology?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, that's a great question. So does anybody here know the phrase cosmic catch? That's when our arm reaches out and catches incoming cargo vehicles. And I use that example because we've recently celebrated our 50th, and that was not something that was conceived of when the arm was first built. So Canadarm is a wonderful example of us iterating space robotics over time. And right now, we're in phases C and D of Canadarm3 for the Lunar Gateway, advanced space robotics, AI-enabled, that will both help assemble the lunar outpost, but also maintain it when humans aren't present. And there's so many spin-offs from this. We know that space robotics are going to be essential to low Earth orbit, but also deep space. And what they've done is they help free up human time. As we've iterated the technology on Canadarm2, it's allowed astronauts to focus on things that they need to do, important science, biology experiments, everything that they go to space to learn. And the arm is really there to support them and to take on more and more tasks to free up their precious time and energy. So as far as we're concerned, we think there's limitless possibilities for space robotics in space servicing, debris removal, building new space stations, and we're really excited about that future. Great question, thank you.
That's wonderful, Lisa. Well, we're at time, unfortunately. I'd love to keep the discussion going, but
Thank you.
Again, congratulations on the announcements this week, and welcome to Australia.
Thanks so much, Enrico. Lovely to be here.
Thanks a lot, Lisa Campbell, President of the Canadian Space Agency. And now it is my great pleasure to call on stage Mr. Bianchi Gang, the Vice Administrator of the Chinese National Space Administration, CNSA. Welcome.
Sir.
Well, welcome, Vice Administrator. China has been recognized for a number of the achievements by the IAF, by the way, for Chang'e 5 and 6. Can you talk a little bit about some of your recent accomplishments in space, and what are the plans looking for the future for future missions?
应当说，中国航天事业保持了持续的这个快速发展。那么，2024年至今的12个月内，我们进行了72次的这个航天发射。天问2号任务呢，于今年5月份发射成功，现在离地球在4500万公里之外。今年呢，这个中艺电磁卫星02星也成功发射，这样提高了全球对空间环境的监测能力。去年我们也开放了嫦娥5号月球样品的国际租借、国际借用。那么总共11个国家，超过24个研究机构进行了申请，最终6个国家、7个研究机构通过了遴选。目前呢，来自英国、法国、德国、日本、巴基斯坦的科研机构完成了借用协议的签署和样品的领取。美国的纽约大学实习分校也已经完成了这个借用协议的签署。
Now China Space has consistent rapid development. Since the October of 2024, which is in the past 12 months, China has implemented 72 times launch missions. And Tianwen-2 mission has launched successfully in this year, May, initiating the trip of China's first asteroid sample returning. And currently, the China and Italy electromagnetic monitoring satellite 02 satellite has been successfully into the orbit, and it's further increasing our global space monitoring ability. And last year, we have opened the Chang'e 5 lunar sample first batch international loan. And in total, we have received about more than 24 scientific institutions application from more than 11 countries. And come to a conclusion, finally, CSA has approved 7 scientific institutions from 6 different countries. And currently, the institutions from UK, France, Germany, Pakistan, Japan has already completed the signing of the agreement and also has been already collected the samples. And the US State University of New York at Stony Brook has already signed the agreement as well.
Okay. In the news recently, China has agreed to some new climate goals. And I know the theme here is about resilient Earth and taking care of planet Earth. Can you talk a bit about CNSA's work on remote sensing and these technologies that have contributed to combating global climate change?
中国呢，高度重视利用空间技术应对全球的气候变化，愿意就构建韧性地球与国际大家庭共同努力。
China paid close attention to the tackle climate change with space technologies and are willing to provide our best effort to build a resilient Earth with our international partners.
Okay. And please go ahead.
在政策方面呢，中国将应对气候变化纳入国家战略，降低碳排放强度已经成为经济社会发展的约束性指标。国家航天局也通过发布白皮书，支持相关科学研究和技术创新等举措，发挥航天技术在应对气候变化中的重要作用。
I would like to share some perspectives. So firstly, from the aspect of strategy, China has already included the addressing climate change as the national strategy. Lowering carbon emission density has become the binding indicators of the social economic development. CNSA also using a set of means such as publication of the white paper and supporting relevant scientific research and also technical innovations to play a very important role in using the space technology to tackle with climate change and also protect our very valuable Earth as our home.
Very good.
在技术层面，中国构建了强大的天基遥感系统，已经成功发射超过500颗的对地观测卫星。 建立了对全球大气、海洋、陆地资源的全天候、全覆盖、全时段的监测能力，为气候监测、自然灾害预警、环境保护等领域提供了关键支撑。我们还部署了全球首颗森林碳汇的监测卫星“勾芒号”、二氧化碳监测卫星“大气1号”等新技术卫星。
From the aspect of technology, China has built a very strong space-based Earth observation system. And currently we have launched more than about 500 different satellites. These are all about remote sensing satellites. And we have formed the monitoring ability to the global atmosphere, ocean, land with the feature of all weather, full cover, and full time. And currently, we have also deployed the first in the world, which is the forest carbon sink monitoring satellite, 巨蟒, and also carbon dioxide monitoring satellite, 大气1, and other new technology satellites. This has provided very important data support.
在推动国际合作及惠及全球方面，中国始终 秉持开放包容、合作共赢的理念，深度参与全球气候和环境治理。我们召开了航天技术应对气候变化国际会议，也积极响应法国等国家倡议的航天技术支持海洋可持续发展，也积极参加金砖国家的遥感卫星星座、空间气候观测平台机制与 世界气象组织、欧洲气象卫星应用组织等保持紧密的合作，构建交流沟通的合作的平台，积极共享数据资源，拓展应用场景，打造示范案例，促进航天技术造福全球人民。
On the aspect about international collaboration and benefit the world countries, China always uphold the principle of open and inclusiveness and win-win cooperation, and deeply involved in the global climate governance. And also we've organized and hold the international conference on using space technology to tackle with climate change. We actively participated in the BRICS countries' remote sensing satellite constellation, and also the mechanism of space weather monitoring platform. We also work very closely with WMO, EMUMESAT, and to together build a high-level international collaboration platforms. China also actively shares the satellite data resources to reach and engage and further improve the remote sensing using scenarios to make an example to our international partners. To together promote the space technology, the deep integration with the global climate initiative and benefiting more countries.
Very good. So China has Tiangong space station in orbit. We have the ISS. We talked a little bit about commercial LEO destinations coming online. So all this increase in human activity in space, but yet we have also on top of this more satellite constellations, mega constellations. China has 1,000 sails as one of its projects that's going. How do we think about the debris challenge and what does that pose for long-term sustainability in space?
我们觉得外层空间是全人类的共同财产。随着全球空间活动的快速发展，空间可持续发展面临严峻的挑战，特别是巨型星座的快速发展，平轨资源日益紧缺， 轨道碰撞的风险也在加剧。中国一贯主张合理开发利用空间资源，保护空间环境。面对外空可持续发展的挑战，中方提出以下主张与实践。
Outer space is our common asset of all humankind, and it is very important that we focus on the long-term sustainability of the outer space activity and also the peace of the world. With the rapid development of global space activity, we're now seeing a very serious challenge on the sustainable space development, especially with the mega constellations. And we can see there are more risks is happening in the on-orbit collision and frequency and orbit resources. And China has always hold our position on the reasonable development and use of space resources, protect space environment. And facing with the great challenges about the outer space, sustainable development, China has the following positions.
意思呢，维护以联合国为核心的国际体系，落实外空活动长期可持续性的21条准则，在联合国框架下推进外空全球治理规则的制定。
First is to maintain the UN as a core as the international system, and to implement the 21 guidelines for long-term sustainable of outer space activity. And with the framework of UN, we will promote the policy making of outer space global governance.
第二呢是加强技术创新，开展空间态势感知系统的研究，建立空间避碰应急的处置机制，提升空间交通管理的能力。中国目前正在推进空间碎片减缓顶层规划，推动监测预警、防护技术的发展，也在开展空间碎片主动移除技术的验证。
Second is to enhance our ability to use new technologies to tackle with the space new challenges, which include to together establish the system research on space awareness, to establish space collision avoidance emergency response, to improve the space traffic management ability. Now China is promoting the space debris mitigation top-level planning to promote the monitoring alerting. And also, most importantly, is we are currently research on the active removal of this space debris on orbit.
Can I just ask, on some of these satellites, are there requirements by the Chinese government to have fuel to deorbit the spacecraft at the end?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're about out of time, but I appreciate your answers. Thank you very much for joining us, Vice Administrator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bianchigang, for being with us here. Thank you. It's now my great pleasure to welcome on stage the President of the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA, Dr. Hiroshi Yamakawa. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hiroshi, a warm welcome back to Australia. We last had the pleasure of hosting you in Perth, co-hosting the Asia Pacific Regional Space Agencies Forum, and it's terrific to have you back. Reflecting on last year, it's been a big year for JAXA. So if you rewind to when we last met as a Congress in Milan, what have been some of JAXA's highlights over that year?
Well, thank you for your great question, Enrico. Well, for example, this June, we launched the satellite called GOSAT-GW, which is dedicated to the observation of greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide and methane, And that is the third satellite for us engaging in the observation of greenhouse gases. And that satellite was launched by the 50th and last H3 rocket. And that was used for about 20 years for launching Japanese satellites. And the next one is, as already explained by my colleague ISRO, chairman of ISRO, this August, ISRO and JAXA signed implementing arrangement regarding LUPEX, which is a lunar polar exploration mission. And JAXA will provide the launch, utilizing H3 rocket. ISRO will provide the lunar lander, and JAXA will provide the lunar rover. So it's really a perfect mix of, I would say, international collaboration. And the third topic is about the launch, which will take place in 3 weeks from now, already mentioned by Lisa. And we will launch utilizing our 7th H3 rocket. We're going to launch HTV-X, which is a cargo transportation vehicle to the International Space Station, and which is an updated version of the previous HTV, which we launched HTV 9 times in the past, and all of them were captured by Canadarm. And again, the next one, the updated version of HTV, we call it HTV-X, will be also captured by Canadarm. So it's really great international collaboration, I would say. And next year, we will launch MMX. MMX stands for Martian Moon Exploration Mission. And we, based on the past experiences of Hayabusa 1 and Hayabusa 2 mission to asteroids, we will launch our spacecraft MMX to the Martian moon. There are 2 moons around Mars, Phobos and Deimos. And that MMX will go to Phobos. And we will go near do proximity operation, land on the surface, and do sampling of the surface materials and bring back the samples to the Earth. So the launch will take place in 2026 next year, and the samples will be back in 2031. I will talk about it later. And also, as you know, Japan and the JAXA engage in we are the part of the Artemis programs, and we're going to provide very important subsystems for the gateway, and also we're going to provide the pressurized rover where 2 astronauts can ride and stay or do several experiments on board for at least 1 month, and but the remaining 11 months will be, automatically controlled. So that is, I think that is a great contribution from Japan to the Artemis program. So that's what the current status.
Wonderful year, and I remember exchanging emails, asked if I could get a driving lesson in the rover when it's built. A wonderful year, and congratulations on that. Australia and Japan celebrate decades of treaty-level scientific cooperation, and one of the things Japan has clearly excelled at is extraterrestrial sample return, and we were proud to host the return of Hayabusa in 2010, and then in 2020 we're privileged to support Hayabusa to return, and we see that as one of our defining moments of our new agency in the early days. You touched on MMX. Any further you want to touch on and explain the MMX mission?
Yes. Well, thank you very much for referring to Hayabusa 1 and 2 again. It's really a great examples of a great international collaboration between Australia and Japan. Both Hayabusa 1 and 2 return capsules on to the Woomera area, and especially for Hayabusa 2 mission, the return of the capsule happened in 2020 at the height of COVID-19. But we had to send about 80 JAXA staff to Australia. So I really appreciate not only the operation of the retrieving capsule, but also very complicated procedures regarding Australian government. So I really appreciate the great contribution of Australian Space Agency, Australian Ministry of Defence, and Australian government as a whole. So thank you very much for that. And regarding MMX, as I said, we will launch the MMX spacecraft in 2026 and returning the sample back to the Earth in 2031 again in Australia, I mean, Woomera area. And I hope that will be a great success again. And I already know that it's already, great examples of, Australia-Japan collaboration. And MMX will go to, for the first time, we will go to Phobos. And the first time, return the samples from the Martian sphere back to the Earth. So I think it's really scientifically important, but also there's lots of innovation regarding sampling mechanism, returning samples back to the Earth utilizing capsule and parachutes. And everything is, I think, has been overcome already. So MMX is almost, completed. And right now we're doing the final testing of the MMX.
Wonderful. This year, Japan is hosting the world. One of the milestone events globally is Expo 2025 in Osaka. Tell us about JAXA's engagements through Osaka World Expo.
Well, Osaka Expo started this April, and it is about to end. Mid-October, Osaka Expo will end. But I think it's really a great event because so many, VIPs from all over the world visiting Japan, and a lot of people visiting Japan, and especially for JAXA, it is great that there's high-level events with so many countries occurred in Osaka Expo, including Australia. Thank you very much for your visit to Osaka. That was a wonderful time for I think both of us.
Absolutely.
And so I had the privilege of meeting so many, for example, heads of state, and at the space event with those countries. And so that was really, a great moment for us, and not only for Space Agency, but also for the two countries.
It was such warm and welcoming hospitality. Yes, thank you. Earlier you talked about partnerships and mentioned a couple. What about the possibility of emerging countries partnering with JAXA?
Yes, we have been, we are, organizing a forum called APSF, that is, which means Asia Pacific Region Space Agency Forum, and we have been collaborating with, so many emerging countries, especially in Southeast Asia, and but in addition to that, collaborating mainly, for example, Earth observation. And also disaster response or disaster management, utilizing many satellites of many countries. So if something happens in Japan, other countries help us. If something happens in those countries, Japan will help. So that is really a great framework for responding to disasters. So that is one of the examples, but the other examples, for example, we are collaborating with the United Nations, the UNEUSA, and the name of the program is called Kibo Cube, and that will provide opportunity for emerging countries to deploy their CubeSats or small satellites into orbit through the Kibo module of the Japanese experiment module of the International Space Station. That's one of the examples. The other example is JAXA is collaborating with the Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA. So JAXA and JICA are collaborating in terms of capacity building. So we are inviting young researchers or professionals or students to Japan, and having so many opportunities, providing so many opportunities for education, experiences, and so on. So I think collaboration with emerging countries is so, fruitful for both of us.
Wonderful. Going back to the theme of sustainable space, resilient Earth, what are, in a little more detail, some of those programs where you're looking to tackle climate change or disaster risk management?
Yes, I said we have launched this year GOSAT GW dedicated for greenhouse gas observation, but we are currently operating 9 Earth observation satellites, And most of them are utilized for, capturing the current status of the, I would say, environment of the Earth. And for example, we have 2 radar satellites for observing, for example, a forest, a tropical forest. And as I said, we are operating 3 greenhouse gas observation satellites and 2 satellites for precipitation and weather-related phenomena. So all of those data are combined and mixed to provide the not the answer, but the service to those who needed those kind of Earth data. So I think Earth data is very valuable, but the most important thing is how to use those data, combining with other data. So we are, honestly speaking, struggling, but we would like to contribute to, solving global issues like climate change and disasters.
Excellent. I'll ask one question and then we'll go to some questions from the audience. JAXA and Japan as industry are known as one of the pioneers in the field of space debris mitigation and remediation. You could talk a little about where you see that going in the future.
Oh, thank you very much. A great question. We think, JAXA thinks that the space debris issue is the one we must cope with because there's not enough time to solve for this problem, because if we do nothing, there will be a big disaster, I'm sure. So one thing we are doing is to not only SSA, space situation awareness. Of course, we are engaging in SSA to protect our own satellites based on the observed satellite data or space debris data. But the other thing we are doing technically is to actively remove space debris. And we already launched the first satellite dedicated to observing space debris of Japanese origin, because we cannot have an access to other debris. So we already collaborated with a Japanese startup called Astroscale to monitor and capture the current status of the space debris, like what does the surface look like, what is the spin rate, what is the attitude of the space debris. So we have done that, and it was a great success. And we are right now going to the second phase of the mission. So based on the captured data, we would like to move on to the next phase, which means we are going to actually capture the space debris and remove it from the orbit. So that will happen in, I hope within 2 years. Wow. And another thing we think is important is that not only technology, but we have to contribute to rules, guidelines regarding space debris issues. So, of course, we are contributing to UN-USA, United Nations USA Office of Space Affairs, UN-USA, and also we are contributing to IADC, which is Interagency Space Debris Coordination Committee, and also to ISO, International Standardization Organization. So that kind of is everybody knows it's not easy to have a consensus, but it's very important to contribute to the discussion in order to prevent, collisions between space debris and active satellites.
I must commend Japan. For many years has been a pioneer, and it's great you continue to lean in that. Please thank you. Thank Hiroshi for joining us on stage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yamakawa, and once again, a big thanks to all our panelists, and of course also to our 2 fabulous moderators. Thanks a lot, Clay Maury and Enrico Palermo. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in about 5 minutes, our first session in the Global Networking Forum will kick off in Parkside 2. And for IEF member representatives, the General Assembly will also kick off in a few minutes in Parkside 1. So please move there to register. Thank you very much.